Well, hello, and thanks for watching another episode of News of the Pews, where you can count on unapologetic 2A advocacy. Gun rights are human rights. I'm here with Thomas Everett Haynes, who has built from the ground up even, a whole new political party that he calls the Pro-Gun Liberal Party.
Hi, I'm Thomas Everett Haynes. I'm running for state representative in Washington for the 17th District, Seat 1. And I'm running as a pro-gun liberal. If you'd like to learn more, we have a website at progunprohealthcare.com, or you can email us at progunprohealthcare@gmail.com.
Now, before we get into all of the contradictions we've got in the pro-gun and the liberal here, I need to ask you the first question that I like to ask most people, if I get the chance, which is Star Wars or Star Trek?
Why? Listen, please save the hard questions till the end, my good friend. I am a second-generation purebred Trekkie on my mother and father's side. Both of them grew up watching Star Trek, but I have also met George Lucas in person. So my father used to help out at ILM. And yeah, so when I was a tiny little kid, I met him. I cannot choose between the two. I'll say Star Wars has been really knocking it out of the park lately.
Okay. I'm sorry, but the correct answer was actually Stargate. Stargate was the correct answer.
Oh. I will have to do some remedial training on that one to get back to you, but I apologize for the falling. It's all my own.
In all seriousness, what is this liberal crap? It says it right there in the title. They're some kind of liberal. What are you a communist? Be honest.
Well, to be fully honest, no. I'm not a communist. I believe very much in personal property and individual liberties. And I haven't even read the Communist Manifesto. But yeah, very much individual property rights. Love those. Property such as guns, actually. And I think we should have more of them.
How is the pro-gun liberal party different from the other major parties?
Well, yeah, the liberal moniker, I've heard a lot of arguments this way, like, what does it mean? Classical liberal? What exactly do you mean? And honestly, I chose it specifically just because of the common vernacular, the moniker of it, of things such as progressive policies, such as more accessible healthcare, housing, childcare, education, things like that, which are important to me, and they're also important to a lot of other people here in Washington, where I live. Not to say that Washington is homogenous. We very much also have the rural and the city people. We're all different like that.
Yeah.
But specifically, those types of progressive policies, for lack of a more succinct way to communicate that, but also the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Well, okay, I like gun rights too, and this milquetoast Republican isn't really defending my rights, and the Democrats definitely not going to defend my gun rights. But if I vote for this guy, is he going to open the borders and trans the kids? Or, like, how liberal are we talking here?
That's a fantastic question in terms of how liberal. I did already state kind of the key points of healthcare, education, housing. I actually used to be homeless on the streets of Seattle, and I'm a veteran, so that matters very much to me. Education, housing, food, cost of living, all the type of thing. Childcare is another one. Those are the big ones. As for trans rights, I'm very supportive of trans individuals. I have several friends who are trans for many, many years now, and I've also trained them to shoot. I wouldn't say any of them are qualified in a self-defense kind of way. Proper self-defense education, obviously, a higher level than what I can provide. But of course, you bring up transing the kids, and of course, trans issues in relation to kids. And I would have to say I don't have really a fully formed opinion on that. I like to think of myself as a data-driven, science-driven kind of person. I've worked in science labs and with scientists and researchers before. And there's just a lot of information there. I would talk to my trans friends, and they would probably tell me to be supportive of trans children. But to speak specifically on legislation related to that, there is actually a ballot initiative here in Washington about making sports exclusive based on your gender identity assigned at birth. And I was reading through that, and I personally, I forget the initiative number. I would have to say that I'm definitely not in support of that. Not only does it remove a bunch of other protections for things such as like sexual assault reporting, if I recall, don't quote me on that. But specifically, it only actually protected with the female side of it. Trans boys could join boys sports And that actually sounds a bit more dangerous to me, because if you assume that like there's bone density differences, like his kids are going through puberty, stuff is changing. Somebody who is taking hormones, if they were doing that, that's reducing their bone density, getting dogpiled in a football field, that sounds far more dangerous than like one slightly larger young lady getting dogpiled by a bunch of other ladies.
I can easily see that. I guess, and I don't want to get too much into that issue. For me personally, I just don't want the government to be involved in it. There's a big difference between what I think is like the right way to handle things, and I think Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller said it best when, and I'm grossly paraphrasing, but he said, "Hey, look, I like libraries, but I'm not willing to point a gun at somebody and force them to build a library. And when we involve the government, that's what it is. Every single time, it is force."
No, I definitely agree with that. Even though I am a supporter of progressive policies, I am also a supporter of the Second Amendment, of course, and people's ability to keep their government in check. I detest the term common sense. Every time somebody whips out common sense, all it means is from my biased perspective and not perceiving any others, is what common sense means.
Yeah. I think it's an attempt to shut down debate beforehand.
100%. It's essentially calling somebody ignorant.
Yeah.
In their area. This is common sense. Why can't you see that? Yeah. You're a dumbass. Wait, what are you doing? Why can't you see it? Like, obviously, common sense gun laws. There was a shooting with this. Why don't we ban them? Like, okay, listen, I'm an intelligent person. I understand the logic behind that. Can you see the 20 other steps that causes a problem?
If you could repeal one gun control law in the state of Washington, what would it be?
That is not a tough one. It would probably be the assault weapons ban that we passed just a few years ago. It's hurt kind of all the gun stores. There are not a lot of gun stores open in Washington anymore. My favorite little gun store closed down. It was just a mom and pop shop. Without gun stores, people don't buy guns. Without buying those things, without access, people don't go shooting. People don't get into the hobby. People don't understand and try to understand the policy matters on a deeper level. Because I've been against everything that our current governor, Bob Ferguson, has passed. His entire career was built on more and more gun control. And then he switched from being the AG to the governor. The entire political career built on gun control. I do not like it. Even if the assault weapons ban did work, if shootings dropped, I still think it was a inappropriate infringement on our right to bear arms. Right? Like that is how rights work. All right. Even if you could publish a book that drives people crazy, you could still publish a book. You can write that newspaper article. Like, sometimes the world is a dangerous place.
If there was one pro-gun bill at the state level, what do you think is most important for us to push in any state?
So here at the school, my high school is right down the road. I learned how to shoot a bow and arrow, a deadly weapon, in the middle of school. Why can't we do some sort of fight, like even if it's just airsoft? Firearm safety should be in schools. Firearms are a fact of life, and children need to be prepared. Children need to know, like just hearing the Eddie Eagle, "Don't touch a gun," once when you're 3 years old, not enough, okay? Kids need to know, hey, constantly. And then probably when you get to the teenage years, that needs to update, because then they're like, teenagers are kind of like provisional adults. You have to ease them into being responsible. They're child development educational experts that are professionals in that field that can 100%. Figure out when is it appropriate.
At the federal level, if you could repeal only one gun control law, what would it be?
There's some good ones in there. I would have to say the Gun Control Act. Was it 1968? Yep. Is that the year of the Gun Control Act? I have complex feelings around our FFL and dealer system. I have an FFL, actually have a small manufacturing FFL. We've yet to manufacture anything notable, but I'll get there. And of course, I would love to just jump to the National Firearms Act. That would be fantastic if I just ripped that off. But if you just get rid of the NFA, you still have the Gun Control Act. Thinking logically about how that would progress in the world if you could suddenly just buy machine guns. I feel like the transition needs to be a bit more gradual.
That's not a very liberal mindset. That sounds somewhat conservative.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. But getting rid of the Gun Control Act, you could import more. Individuals could support the Ukraine war by buying war trophies. That would be cool. Uh, that would be pretty sick, actually. And you'd also open and aid online gun stores, which could probably also help small mom and pop places. Again, nobody's going to beat Arms List or Gun Broker, but it would allow commerce and open that up in a way. Now, some other regulations might be important, altering background checks so that they are more privacy oriented, easier to implement, so something along those lines, not intrusive and annoying like the ones we have now. But if I were to repeal one unilaterally, just immediately, Gun Control Act, I think that would be a good move.
Okay.
And it could potentially get more people into going shooting and learning about the hobby, and beyond the hobby, the community and the rights associated with it.
That's a solid answer. And a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people go for the NFA, but a lot of people don't realize that. And, it's a hypothetical, so we can construct this in any technical way you want, but you can't really repeal the NFA without excising the little bits of NFA cancer that are all riddled throughout the 68 GCA.
My pitch to people when I talk about like being a pro-gun liberal, what that is to trade the Hughes Amendment for universal health care. Now, I'm guessing that you're not fully behind universal health care. Would you trade that for the Hughes Amendment? Get rid of that? I mean, maybe, because honestly, you'd come out ahead. And this is my pitch to people, because that would save lives. Because the amount of people that die for not having health care is so much more than the amount of people that would die if you could get a NFA registered machine gun. Right? Like, so how many people are killed with NFA items? You could probably count the yearly one.
Registered NFA items? The last I looked it up, there were like 3 crimes in all of history that were done with a registered machine gun.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were department issued weapons.
Man, I know more than 3 people who have died because of lack of health care. So like that's the pitch to my more liberal-minded friends. I would like the current background check system we have to be abolished. I think it is a kind of useless time waster that just wastes the government's time, wastes the government's money, which is the taxpayers' money, and doesn't really help our accomplishing, because it is like, what does it stop? People are just going to print a firearm, steal a firearm for whatever nefarious deeds they have planned.
So we've kind of tiptoed around this already, but one of the questions that I had prepared is there any gun control law that you think should exist?
So most of the firearms you could buy are perfectly safe. We joked about the High Point earlier, the cheapest thing out there, incredibly safe, incredibly reliable. And it's awesome that the market has done that. And I'm not saying we need like a European style proof house where every single firearm has to go to a central location and get checked by the government. But I do feel like something that contains an explosion, you should have more than maybe just the manufacturer's word that it can do that. And of course, every manufacturer that's out there now, they proof fire their weapon, and you can assume that is the case. But I don't know, the fact there isn't really a guarantee, and I suppose even if the government did pass some sort of legislation requiring testing and making it so, like, I don't know, you need a certification pass card distributed with every new firearm sold. I don't know. Could you trust that more? I'm not sure. But safety is paramount, and I feel like something like that inconveniences the manufacturers isn't necessarily an infringement on your individual liberty. They can manage.
I can see that. I'm going to push back a little bit in that.
Do push back. This is like I'm just coming up with an idea here. Please help me make it not terrible.
We're just spitballing. So I think that government certification, regulation, all of that is generally bullshit and shouldn't happen. I think that the proper way to do it in most cases is through private certification. That so if you're looking to hire a network admin, you can hire somebody who's got a degree or someone who's got a CCNA, or maybe they've got a CompTIA Network Plus certification, or both. those private organizations do the certification. The professional pays to take the test to prove that he has the knowledge, and the employer can choose between, in the case of IT, there's like multiple governing bodies, and in other fields there's like one. I would like there to be independent competing certification boards in every industry, and that rather than being licensed by the government as a lawyer or a physician or whatever, you go to the independent certification body and take your test, do whatever hoops they make you jump through. They give you the certificate. Consumers say, that certification body has a great reputation. That certification body is kind of janky. I don't know if I want a neurosurgeon that was certified by A+ certifications. That it should. I believe that,
on Yelp.
yeah, that there should be certifications, but it should be private. And part of the reason is back to my problem with government force, and part of the problem is government picking winners and losers. And like, if we apply this government certification board to the SIG 320 situation, let's say we've got this government board that certifies the safety of firearms. So far as I can tell, the issue with the 320 comes down to the fact that it uses a firing pin safety or striker safety that's very different. Almost every other striker fired gun uses a very traditional, almost exactly the same plunger style firing pin block. Same thing as in Series 70 Colt and a ton of other guns. It's a very well known, quite robust drop safety measure. And SIG's design looks, in my entirely unprofessional opinion, bad. It looks like it fails. Now, should the government certification, the certifying body, then should they come in and say every pistol must have this plunger style firing pin safety? Because it'd be one thing if they said, okay, SIG's safety isn't good, do something different, fine. But the other thing the government could do is say, oh no, everything has to have exactly this style of plunger firing pin safety, and now we don't get to do any sort of innovation because we have to fail. You got to try and fail, and hopefully we're not failing with people's lives. Hopefully we're failing in the test environment, not the production. Don't test in prod when it comes to firearms. But
just a little testing and prod, it'll be fine.
What is the best way to get through to someone who leans left? What is the best way to convince them to stop trying to use state violence against me?
People are very different, of course. So in trying to think of like one thing that could work well, you got to think hard about that. So leading with the whole, I don't want Donald Trump to have a monopoly on violence is good. I try not to use the term fascist. I think it's been watered down by its overuse in the last decade or so. But of course, tyrant is essentially a synonym. But yeah, just starting with, I don't think Donald Trump should have a monopoly on force. I think things can get bad, even if it's very unlikely that they will. And people need to be empowered to do something about that. And there are many small news stories you can come to. Another one is you could talk about, of course, they might bring up something like defund the police. And you could play into that argument. You'd be like, well, okay, if we do that, I mean, because you act like, that you're on the same page, because we all know that police aren't required to protect you. They have no duty to protect individuals. So how will you protect yourself? And then, have a little conversation about that. If they bring up stuff about like magazines, oh, you only need so much, you only need this much, just tell them no, because I'll miss. And you can just make body armor out of stuff from Home Depot. Like, that's not how it works. It is not a video game. You're not going to get headshots every time. It's just not how it goes when you're in stress. And I think the biggest, most effective thing that I have ever done is to just be kind, be friendly, and take them shooting. I usually lure them out there with a picnic. I say, I'll bring the guns and ammunition. You bring some food. We'll go out to the hills. There's a beautiful spot right above the city where you can see the entire city, Vancouver, Portland, and down out almost to the ocean. Engage with them. And if you meet with somebody who's just looking for a fight and they just want to argue and tell you this is bad, that's bad, you just got to retreat. You got to redeploy your forces to a fight that you can win.
Or sometimes it can be effective to just ridicule them and attempt to win over the people who are observing the bloodbath.
There you go. I never heard anybody else say that, but that is how I approach every single argument.
All right. So my last question before I throw it back to you and let you develop what it is that you want people to know, I got to ask you, do you think you can win?
Well, I think I can be successful, and I've already been successful in that regard. I'm trying to bring awareness to the fact that gun rights are human rights. They're not an issue owned by one individual party. The people of Washington are not in line with just whatever the latest democratic policies coming out of California are. We have all types of different people here, all types of different thinkers. And in bringing awareness to that, I believe I have already been successful, and I'd love to keep doing it and be more successful. As for the election specifically, Washington does have an interesting primary system. So for this upcoming election, people can vote for me without the typical "I'm throwing my vote away" mentality. And I'm looking forward to getting some votes there and using that to try and platform even more. The way it works is the two candidates with the highest percentage of votes go on and are printed onto the November ballot. And then the people will check those off. All the other candidates are technically still running, but you'd have to write them in. But you could also write it anybody.
It's kind of a runoff.
Convoluted, but it essentially, a little bit of a runoff. Two rounds of a runoff, essentially.
Okay. So regardless,
I'm hoping to make an impact.
Regardless of who people vote for this coming Tuesday, they can still vote for their favorite Republican or Democrat come November.
Yeah, most likely. Now, it would be amazing if I actually did win the primary and could go on to be on the final ballot. And if that does happen, I'm fully prepared to do everything I can to advocate for gun rights and progressive policies, as I mentioned earlier, to help improve the lives of people here in Washington. And if they don't, I'm still going to be platforming and trying to help the cause. And again, showing people that it's not just an issue owned by one party.
What else would you like to say before we let you go?
I would like to just say for everybody to reach out to your more liberal-minded friends. And I'm not saying just show up and argue with them and try to convince them immediately, but take them shooting. Take them out for a picnic. Maybe they can make a good sandwich and you can show them how to shoot. And maybe you'll change a few minds. Maybe you won't. But you'll have fun shooting. And you'll be hanging out with your friends. Maybe you'll make a difference.
So if I don't live in Washington, and I don't, how can I support you?
Well, I do have a website with a donation link for the campaign. People from all over the country are allowed to donate. I do believe you have to be a citizen. I'll provide a link for that if you'd like. I'm still looking into the specific finance laws. So I am hoping to build this into a more official party to support other candidates who would be more like-minded and running in more traditionally liberal areas around the country.
Awesome. I love you.